Throughout history, Native American warriors like Sitting Bull of the Lakota, Tecumseh of the Shawnee, and Geronimo of the Apache have been celebrated for their fierce defense of indigenous lands. Their courage and resilience in the face of relentless foreign encroachment have left an indelible mark on history, preserving the spirit of their people. Among these legendary figures was Lozen, a name less often spoke, but no less significant. Lozen, an Apache woman of the Chihenne Band, stood shoulder to shoulder with these iconic warriors, fighting against both Mexican and American forces for 3 decades. A warrior, a shaman, and a humanitarian, she became a symbol of resistance during one of the most turbulent periods in Apache history, earning the moniker Apache, Joan of Arc. Lozen was no ordinary warrior. Skilled in horseback riding and combat, she also possessed what her people believed to be supernatural abilities. Through prayer and ceremony, she could sense the direction of approaching enemies. It was a gift that made her invaluable on the battlefield. Her brother, Chief Victorio, relied on her strength and strategy, once proclaiming, "Lozen is my right hand." Strong as a man, braver than most, and cunning in strategy, she is a shield to her people. While history often elevates the names of male leaders like Geronimo and Victorio, Lozen's legacy lives on in the hearts of the Apache people, a legend whose courage, wisdom, and spiritual power continue to inspire. Lozen was born around 1840 into the Chihenne Apache Band near Ojo Caliente, New Mexico. At the time, there were at least 7 Apache bands and numerous clans spread across a vast area known as Apacheria. In what is now northern Mexico, eastern Arizona, and southwestern New Mexico. The Chihenne Band, also known as the Eastern Chiricahua, or Red Paint People, were recognized by the red band of clay worn across their faces during ceremonies. Known for raiding, Apache bands often warred with one another and were always on the move. Traditionally, the Apache were nomads, and they never stayed in one place. Lozen's name, which means dexterous horse thief, reflects the skill that she acquired that enabled her to sneak behind enemy lines undetected, round up horses, and steal them away. Her stealth and courage would become valuable qualities during a time of near constant conflict. Lozen began fighting Mexican soldiers and scalp hunters, eternal enemies of her band, when she became of age. After Americans arrived in 1849 to lay claim to her homeland, she battled then as well. Born into a matriarchal culture with a deity called White Painted Woman at the center of her creation story, Lozen understood from a young age that women played an important role. She was a warrior woman in her time. The Apaches always had a woman with them. She stood right behind the man with a knife or gun. If the man went down, you had to deal with the woman too. Women also hid the children from enemies. In 1848, New Mexico became a territory of the U.S. under the Treaty of Hidalgo. A California gold rush that year brought streams of miners through Apacheria. When Lozen was 12, she underwent puberty rites in which she went alone into the mountains and, according to oral history, gained a supernatural power to locate enemies. Harlan Geronimo, the great-grandson of Geronimo, said Lozen would lift her hands and walk in a circle until the veins in her arm turned dark blue, indicating the direction from which the enemy would approach. Armed with this knowledge, Lozen would help her people avoid capture. She was not the only woman warrior in her band. the Test, a member of the Chihenne band of the Chiricahua Apache, was a companion of Lozen on many raids. After Chiricahua chief Cochise was falsely accused of kidnapping a white boy, the conflict escalated into 2 decades of warfare between the United States and multiple Apache nations. It was in 1861. The Chihenne Chiricahua chief Cochise was falsely accused of kidnapping a rancher's son, sparking a series of conflicts that would embroil the U.S. and various Apache nations in conflict for 24 years. In 1862, Cochise and another chief went to battle at Apache Pass with 200 warriors, but were pushed into a tree and scattered by howitzer cannons. Lozen fought at Apache Pass, was welcomed into council as a warrior, and fought on for years with her brother Victorio in the struggle for their homeland. Lozen was likely involved at a horse raid at Fort Craig, where Apaches armed with bows and arrows took horses from soldiers. In 1869, she joined Victorio and other Apache leaders for a meeting to establish a reservation at Ojo Caliente. But they were instead moved to harsher conditions at the San Carlos Reservation in Arizona. In 1877, Victorio, Lozen, and other Cheyenne fled San Carlos, eventually choosing war rather than return. They disbanded to evade capture, and Lozen later escorted a group of women and children to Mexico across the raging Rio Grande River. James Kawekla, a child at the time, remembered riding behind his grandmother as the Cheyenne band fled American forces. He remembers seeing Lozen. He described her as a magnificent woman on a beautiful horse, holding a rifle above her head. After the group reached Mexico, cold and wet, but alive, Lozen then rode back across the Rio Grande and returned to the fight. At one point, Lozen left the band to help a young pregnant woman cross the Chihuahuan Desert of Mexico back to her family on the Mescalero Apache Reservation, equipped with a single rifle, a cartridge belt, a knife, and a 3-day supply of food. While en route, she hid the mother and assisted her in delivering the child, killed and butchered a longhorn cow, and captured 2 horses for their journey. Victorio was ambushed and died at Tres Castillos, where many other Apaches also died. Some believe that if Lozen had been present, Victorio would not have been ambushed. After Victorio's death, Lozen rode with Geronimo. In 1882, she joined him in a raid that freed 600 people from San Carlos and supported him again in 1885 during his final escape from the reservation. According to his descendants, Geronimo decided to surrender in 1886 to ensure the safety of his remaining followers. Lozen, Geronimo, and many others were taken to Florida prisons. She later died in Alabama at the age of 50 from tuberculosis, but some of her relatives made it back west. After the wars, many of the Chiricahua were brought from Florida. The community at the Mescalero Reservation proudly continues the woman's coming-of-age traditions that Lozen participated in more than 180 years ago. The community also continues to celebrate the legacy of Lozen. Descendants of Lozen's family are still among that community today. Lozen is a name that resonates with the power and dignity of the Apache people. Lozen was not just a warrior. She was a prophet, a healer, and a symbol of strength for her people during times of great turmoil. From a very young age, Lozen chose the path of a warrior, which she walked with unparalleled grace and ferocity. becoming an icon of the female empowerment in Native American culture. Her name, Lozen, derived from the Apache word meaning savvy horse hijacker, stemming from her extraordinary skills in horsemanship and strategy. But Lozen was much more than a skilled warrior, possessing a unique gift, a spiritual and tactical ability that allowed her to determine the direction of enemy forces. This skill was invaluable during the Apache versus the federal government wars, providing her people a very strategic advantage against their adversaries. Lozen's life was a reflection to the struggle of the Apache people during a period of relentless aggression by outside forces. Following the capture of her brother Victorio in 1880, Lozen continued to fight alongside Geronimo, becoming a pivotal figure in the Apache resistance movement. Her presence in battles was not just as a fighter. She was a healer, spiritual guide, source of inspiration for her people. Her capture in 1886 alongside Geronimo and other Apache warriors marked the end of an era. Her death did not signify defeat. In remembering Lozen, we do not just recall the battles and the struggles. We celebrate the spirit of a woman who defied conventions, who stood tall against overwhelming odds, who embodied the essence of sovereignty and preservation. Her life and legacy is a reminder to all of us that our culture, our traditions, and our rights are worth fighting for. Have you ever heard of Lozen? I hadn't till about a week ago. I was kind of sad because I did grow up learning about some male warriors, which was awesome, and they are important too. I hadn't ever heard of Lozen. I wonder how many other women warriors are out there. Now I need to go look and study and, do my work. I heard a lot about Geronimo growing up. I can't believe we had never heard about Lozen, and it would be nice to see her on the big screen. I just think that they should all be equally important. So go and do your own research, guys, on Lozen and other warriors. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was something a little different, but I had to tell you guys Lozen's story. Let's get her out there more, guys. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you on the next episode of Tales Told in the Dark.